Hey everybody, we are back. We are on chapter 5. Remember, we're working on a book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. We're on chapter 5, the thought factor in achievement. And he's still, even in chapter 5, each chapter here up to this point has all been about thought, the power of thought, positive or negative. And he just keeps on digging deeper and deeper and deeper how thought really outlines a whole entire life, the importance of thought in every area of our life. And this and he's still going with thought on chapter 5. So let's dig into this. This is a very unique chapter, and you will find out like once we dive into this. So let's get rocking. All that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts. Okay, I love this paragraph right in green here because this really sets the tone of the chapter. And I really listen to this. And I'll read it one more time. All that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is in a direct result of his own thoughts. In a justly ordered universe where loss of equipoise would mean total destruction, individual responsibility must be absolute. Listen to this. Your individual responsibility must be absolute. What does this mean? Is no matter if life is good or bad for you, you have to take responsibility for that. It's your own responsibility. Okay, what's happening in your 3D world? What's happening in your life? A man's weakness and strength, purity and impurity are his own and not another's man's. They are brought about by himself and not by another. Listen to this. A man's weakness, your weakness and strength, purity and impurity are your own and not another's man's. They are brought about himself and not by another. I mean, this is so powerful because, every time something don't go our way, isn't it funny how we blame another person? Or isn't it funny how we blame our job, we blame an outside entity, we blame something outside of ourselves? But we don't take personal responsibility. Now, this could be you, this could be me, okay, or 100%, we have friends and we know people that do this. Every time something don't go their way, they're blaming some type of outside circumstance, the reason why it's going on. It's never their own responsibility. So I'll read this paragraph in purple one more time, just because this is a long sentence. A man's weakness and strength, purity and impurity are his own and not another man's. They are brought by himself and not by another. And they can only be altered by himself. Listen to this. And it can only be altered by yourself. You can only change it. You take responsibility. You can only change your life. If you don't like your circumstances in your life, you don't like what's going on, the only person that can change it, the only person that can alter it is you. And never by another. Never another person. Another person cannot alter your life. Another person can't change your life for good. It's only you. Directly you. And he continues on. His condition is also his own and not another man's. His suffering and his happiness are involved from within. Remember, we always talk within. It's always within out. Okay, your suffering and happiness are from within. They're coming from within. So what's happening in your 3D world, it's coming from within you. But you're just basically, it's just taking time to manifest into your reality. As he thinks, so he is. Listen to this. I'm at the last sentence here. As he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains. Listen to this. As he thinks, as you think, so you are. As you continue to think, you remain. Okay, what he meaning by that, as you remain exactly where you are, because our thoughts are repetitive. Okay, this is the cycle of karma. If you don't change your thoughts, you're not really staying stagnant. You're slowly going backwards, but you're staying exactly where you are in your 3D world. Okay, you're not getting better. It's only your responsibility. But then at the end, he says, as you think, so you are. As you continue to think in that state, you remain in that state. Nothing else can change your 3D world except you, and you have to change your thinking. You have to change your thought process. But your thought process, how you think of things, is coming into your life. A strong man cannot help a weaker unless that weaker is willing to be helped. Listen, this is such a powerful chapter. A strong man cannot help a weaker unless the weaker is willing to be helped. And even then, the weak man must become strong of himself. He must, by his own efforts, develop the strength which he admires in another. None but himself can alter his condition. This is a powerful paragraph, because I think, and if you haven't, a lot of us have this type of experience, is that maybe we have an experience with a loved one, maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a nephew, maybe it's a best friend. Okay, maybe it's just somebody that we've grown an acquaintance, but the relationship has grown, and we're trying to help them. Maybe they're struggling, maybe they're an alcoholic, maybe they're struggling with drugs or whatever, and you're trying to help them, but it's a sad state, and it can be sad for us. But this what kind of like brought up in my mind when I read this paragraph is because no matter how bad you want to help somebody else, that person has to come to a reality of they have to want it. They have to want to help themselves. You can have all the power in the universe to help them, but if they don't want help, you're not going to help them. They're not going to get any benefit out of it. And this is what he's saying in this paragraph. A strong man cannot help a weaker unless that weaker is willing to be helped. It has been usual for men to think and to say, many men are slaves because one is an oppressor. Let us hate the oppressor. Now, however, there is amongst an increasing few a tendency to reverse this judgment and to say, one man is an oppressor because many are slaves. Let us despise the slaves. Now these several paragraphs here, I don't know, since this is a YouTube video, I don't know how what I can say here, but this really brings up, this is 2024 inside the United States, and the whole thing about, since the pandemic and racism and race, in my opinion, racism has grown and gotten a little bit out of control. I can remember as a kid, even going through elementary, middle school, high school, and even college here in Ohio, there is really, I don't want to say no such thing as racism, but you never heard it. And, it's just the last several years ago, it's they're putting it on a media, every TV show, every movie. And when you spread, the awareness of race, what ends up happening is it gets out of control. Okay, you're not helping the matter because you're spreading awareness about it. Okay, even Wallace Waddell says this in Science of Getting Rich, is if you're spreading awareness of disease, it only creates more disease. Makes sense? If you're spreading awareness of poverty, it only creates more poverty. This is universal law. If you spread awareness about race and racism, it only creates more racism. Okay, that's why lots of times I don't like watching TV anymore, watching movies. Once they bring up any type of racial slurs, I pretty much turn it off or change the channel or watch something else. Because it's true, like attracts like. The awareness only attracts what you're aware of. It only gets worse. And this is what James Allen is saying when he's comparing the oppressor versus the oppressed, the oppressor versus the slave. This is what he's saying. And he goes on, the truth is that the oppressor and the slave are co-operators in ignorance. Isn't that funny? The oppressor and the slave are co-operators. They're one. But he says in ignorance. They're both of them are to blame. Both of them are thinking wrong. This is what he's saying. The truth is that the oppressor and the slave are co-operators in ignorance. And while seeming to afflict each other, are in reality afflicting themselves. Isn't that weird? Isn't that amazing? Listen to this. While seeming to afflict each other, the oppressor is trying to afflict the oppressed. And the oppressed is trying to afflict the oppressor. But at the same time, in reality, what's really going on? They're afflicting it themselves. They're making their life worse. Okay, this is like the area of forgiveness. Like if you go through the Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell, the law of forgiveness. When you don't forgive somebody, like in this realm here, if you don't forgive somebody, you are bound to them. So this is what's happening. See, the oppressor And the oppressed, or the oppressor and the slave thinks the slave is bound by unforgiveness, and they're attached to the oppressor. Okay, you're attached to that sin. Okay, the only way to break that attachment is true forgiveness, true forgetfulness. That's the only way to break this attachment, because you both go down together. And this is what James Allen is saying here. You both are afflicting yourselves, and you both are going down together. A perfect knowledge perceives the action of law in the weakness of the oppressed and the misapplied power of the oppressor. Listen, a perfect love, seeing the suffering which both states entail, condemns neither. Listen, a perfect love, seeing the suffering which both states entail, condemns neither. A perfect compassion embraces both oppressor and the oppressed. He who has conquered weakness and has put away all selfish thoughts belongs neither to the oppressor nor the oppressed. He is free. Listen to this. Right now he's talking about the law of forgiveness here. He's not talking about forgiveness, but indirectly he's talking about the law of forgiveness. Remember, if you cannot forgive, you are attached to that other person. You are attached to that thing that you can't forgive. You are attached to that obstacle that you can't forgive. And most of us carry unforgiveness in our heart. Most of us carry, especially if you're older. Like, I'm in my 40s. Okay, and it's easy for me to think back and think of examples that something happened to me, like think about this. Something happened to me 10 years ago. I'd never eat at that restaurant because this is what they did to me 10 years ago. That's unforgiveness. That's a silly example, but that's unforgiveness. I'm attached to that. Okay, if I truly forgive, true forgiveness is forgetfulness. I would totally just forget about it. It would totally leave my mind. But since I can remember it and I can tell the story, and when I tell the story, I'm just as emotional about it today as I was 10 years ago, well, I haven't really forgave because I never forgot. And the thing to walk away with here is that you are bound by your unforgiveness. You are linked to the other person. If someone does you wrong, you can't forgive them. You are linked to them. Okay, you are linked to that sin. And the sin is unforgiveness. You're linked to it. You can't break free from it unless you truly forgive. So I'll say this one more time. He who has conquered weakness and has put away all selfish thoughts belongs to neither the oppressor nor the oppressed. Belongs neither to the oppressor nor to the slave. He is free. The only way to break free is put away all selfish thoughts. What does that mean? When you truly forgive, you truly forget. Meaning that you put away all selfish thoughts. You put away the blame. You put away what happened. You totally forget about it. That's the only true way to break free. That's what he's saying. You are free. A man can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up his thoughts. Listen, a man, you can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up your thoughts. He can only remain weak and abject and miserable by refusing to lift up his thoughts. Isn't that so true? I'm going to go down here so I can see it. You can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up your thoughts. What does that mean? By lifting up your thoughts and positively, only seeing the good, only focus on the good. When you look at another person and you talk about another person, you pull out the good in that person instead of doing the opposite. Then he says, he can only remain weak in thoughts, and abject and miserable by refusing to lift up his thoughts, by refusing to think positive, by refusing to pull out the good in every situation. When you refuse to do this, you remain weak and bound to that state that you're in. Before a man can achieve anything, even in worldly things, he must lift his thoughts above slavish animal indulgence. Listen, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. I'll be honest with you, just with some of the language he uses, but I'll try my best to explain it. Before a man can achieve anything, before you can achieve anything, even in worldly things, and worldly possessions, that dream house, that dream car, that dream job, dream career, you must lift your thoughts above slavish animal indulgence. What do you mean by that? Like animal instincts. You're not in control of your thoughts. You have if you have impure thoughts, you act on those impure thoughts. If you have negative thoughts, you act on those negative thoughts. That's what he really means here. He may not, in order to succeed, give up all animal and selfishness by any means, but a portion of it must at least be sacrificed. A man whose first thought is bestial indulgence could neither think clearly nor plan methodically. He could not find and develop his latent resources and would fail in any undertaking. Not having commenced and manfully control his thoughts. I'm down here. Not having commenced to manfully control his thoughts. Remember, thought control is probably one of the hardest things to master in our entire lifetime. It's really controlling where our thoughts are going. Okay, because most of us, since we're, as long as we can remember, whatever we think about, we just let our thoughts just run wild. Whatever we think about, we just let it run wild. But in essence, they don't really run wild. Okay, let me give you an example here. Psychologists agree that we have anywhere between 65,000 and 70,000 thoughts per day. I mean, I don't know how they know this, but that's what they agree to when you do research. Okay, out of 65,000 thoughts every day that we have, 70% of them are negative, which is astonishing, meaning that we're thinking negative 70% of the time throughout the day, and they're redundant. So we're thinking about the same negative things all throughout the day. We could be thinking the same, 5, 6, 7, 10 things, and it's redundant. And when you start become aware of this, you start noticing, sometimes when I take my meditation walk in the morning, since I'm in Ohio right now, and I've been doing morning walks. My morning walk is about 45 minutes to an hour, and I usually carry my cup of coffee with me and stuff like that. But what I notice is when I take my walk, what's so powerful with this example is because I know 100% I'm gone 1 hour. That's how long it takes me. And what I've noticed is when I start walking, if my mind drifts off in the negative, I'll just think about one negative thing after another. Next thing I know, I'm back from my walk like I walked in a trance. And when I get back, my awareness kicks on, and I think to myself, wow, I've been gone an hour. And I start thinking about, what did I think about the whole time? And I noticed, all I think about was negative things. But then also I've noticed, all I did was just think about one negative thing after another. I started thinking about, well, this person, I don't like why he does this. And then it jumps to another thought that's similar, okay? And then I jump to another thought and another thought. But I'm not jumping from negative to positive, because I'm not in control of it at that time. I'm just jumping from negative to negative, and that's what we do all through the day. So that's why he says, not having commenced to manfully control your thoughts. That's why I say, all this, we're on chapter 5, but all this is about thought control. And this is why he's using words like your slavish animal indulgence. Like you're enslaved by it. You're using those raw animal instincts, and you're not controlling it. Meaning, if you start having impure thoughts, negative thoughts, negative thoughts on, let's say, for example, cheating on your spouse, cheating on your significant other. If you entertain those thoughts, it might not come true right now and drop right in front of your face, but if you entertain those thoughts will grow, roots will grow, it will get stronger and stronger until it actually happens in your 3D world, because you're entertaining it. Okay, you're not getting it out of your mind once and for all. That's what he's meaning here. Not having commenced to manfully control his thoughts, he is not in a position to control affairs and to adopt serious responsibilities. He is not fit to act independently and stand alone, but he is limited only by the thoughts which he chooses. Listen, you are only limited by the thoughts which you choose. Okay, your limitation really is on you. My limitation is on me. That's my responsibility. But my limitation is only by my thoughts that I choose to think about. If I choose to think about lack and poverty, well, that's what's going to come to me, and it's my fault. But if I choose to think about prosperity and abundance and good, that has to come to me as well. So they're both on the same plane, but what we have to take away from here is on both sides, it's our responsibility. That's what's occurring in our life. There can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice. And a man's worldly success will be in the measure that he sacrifices his confused animal thoughts and fixes his mind on the development of his plans and the strengthening of his resolution and self-reliance. Now, what does he mean by sacrifice? Okay, when he says, one of the things I want to point out here, when I read this chapter before I did this video, I've had this book for a long time. I've read this book before. This isn't my first rodeo here. But one of the things, like nowadays, when I think about, there can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice. Because now he's going to start bringing up the word sacrifice. He's been using the word throughout this chapter, sacrifice. And lots of times, even for me as an entrepreneur, maybe you're an entrepreneur as well. And, throughout, I've been doing this for a couple decades now. And, I go, as an entrepreneur, I go to, at one time in my life, for several years, every quarter I used to go to a 3, 4, 5 day seminar that I would pay for myself. And, teaching you, in entrepreneurship, teaching you, some of it could be positive thinking, some of it could be business development, personal development, how to build a business online, copywriting, all that stuff, a lot of it, and some of it's on the other side, like this, like thought control, how to, how to get better at manifesting and stuff like that. So I've taken stuff around the whole thing. But what I notice is, especially nowadays, and I don't want to mention names, and this isn't the purpose of the video to mention names, but a lot of things I think we misinterpret when people say sacrifice. And this is James Allen. This book was published in 1902. This book is like 122 years old at this point of this video. And we misinterpret sacrifice. We think, well, you have to sacrifice. Well, Chad, you have to sacrifice. So I tell you, you have to sacrifice. And people think like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I must sacrifice all my friends. I must give up every weekend to work on my business. I must get up going out with my spouse, a significant other, to work on my business. I must, that's how they think on sacrifice. And sometimes these big gurus that are multimillionaires, sometimes they don't mean that. Sometimes we take it to the extreme, but lots of times too, they do make those remarks. And I don't know if they do it on purpose or what, or they start the 4 a.m. club or 5 a.m. club where you go to bed at midnight and you get up at 4 a.m. no matter what with 4 hours of sleep. I'm really into health. And one of the things, when people are saying go to bed at midnight, get up at 4 with 4 hours of sleep, you're working on fumes and you're sacrificing your health. Okay, that's the only thing. You do that for a long period of time, you're going to sacrifice your health and you're not going to be healthy. And I know a lot about a lot of these big time entrepreneurs or multimillionaires in the influencer world. But some of them I've worked with, some of them I just kept up with and went to their seminars. Some of them have health challenges that you don't really know about. And they have health challenges because this is what they do, is they don't get enough sleep. Okay, sleep is where your body naturally rebuilds and restores itself. A lot of these entrepreneurs have really horrible health problems if you really knew and were aware of it. And because they fall down that road, they fall down that rut of sacrificing sleep, sacrificing time, sacrificing the weekends. And yes, they have millions and millions of dollars, but when is enough? That's the question. If I have millions of dollars in the bank, why do I keep on having to make millions and millions? Okay. There's a certain time that they're kind of go back and start working on their health. But yet they're giving you bad advice basically, and telling you that, sacrifice your weekends, the 4 a.m. club, the 5 a.m. club. Okay, a lot of them that preach this, they don't even get up at 4 a.m. They get up one time at 4 a.m. and the rest of the time they're sleeping until 8 a.m. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole with this, is because they're misinterpreting sacrifice. And we are misinterpreting what they mean by sacrifice. But in here, James Allen, he's referring to sacrifice, but he's referring it to your level of thought. You have to sacrifice good thoughts over bad thoughts. Good thoughts over evil thoughts. Positive thoughts over negative thoughts. That's what he means of sacrifice. Okay, you're giving up these negative thoughts. Okay, you're giving up impure thoughts to think pure thoughts. Okay, this is what he's meaning. Okay, let's continue on. There's there can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice. And a man's worldly success will be in the measure that he sacrifices his confused animal thoughts and he fixes his mind on the development of his plans and the strengthening of his resolution and self reliance. And the higher he lifts his thoughts, the more manly, upright, and righteous he becomes. Listen, I like the end of this paragraph. The higher you lift your thoughts, the higher you lift your thoughts in higher consciousness, good, pure thoughts, the more manly, the more upright, the more righteous you become. The greater will be his success. The more blessed and enduring will be his achievements. Because at that point, remember, when you focus on good, by law, the laws of the universe, good has to come to you. Okay, that's law. Listen, the universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, the vicious, although on the mere surface it may sometimes appear to do so. Isn't this so true? Okay, we think, when he talks about greedy, dishonest, and vicious, he's not really referring to wealthy people. But nowadays, this is what it's so funny. Like I got a comment, as I'm doing these videos today, I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and my comment was like, "Oh, rich people are always rude." And so I commented back, and I don't want to, and the reply to my comment is, I thought about this, is that a lot of people think wealthy people, okay, and lots of times they'll look at celebrities, something like that on TV. And most people get this. Most people, when you make a comment about a wealthy person or a rich person, they're greedy, they're dishonest, they're vicious, they steal from people, they don't do the best thing, they lie, they cheat, they're steal, stuff like that. Most of the time, what's ironic about it, most of the time, people don't even personally know a wealthy person. And I mean wealthy meaning they make millions of dollars. I don't mean wealthy, they only make a couple $100,000 a year. That's not wealthy, that's just higher middle class. That's an attorney. That's a doctor. Okay, they're not they're not super close to being wealthy. Okay, they're only making a couple $100,000 a year. Okay, that might be a little bit more than what you make or significant more than what you make, but they're not wealthy. Okay, but what James Allen is saying here, like on the surface, we make these rash statements or these rash judgments. We see somebody rich and wealthy, a celebrity, and we say, well, he's greedy, dishonest, and vicious. He must have favor. He must have, no matter if he's mean, the lords of the universe must favor him. But it really don't, okay? We can spin this two ways. For one, you don't know what's really happening in his personal life. Yes, they might not have money, but we've all known, just by example, how people have all the money in the world, but yet they're caught up into money schemes. They're caught up into drugs and alcohol that ruins their life. Okay, so we never know what's going on a personal level with somebody. But you got to remember, sometimes it takes time to manifest. But if you're just focused on greed and dishonest and vicious behavior, well, what that means is, over time, it might take a little bit of time, but that's the only stuff that can come to you. Does that make sense? Then he flips it and he says, it helps the honest, the magnanimous, and the victorious. All the great teachers of the ages have declared this in varying forms. And to prove and know it, a man has but to persist in making himself more and more victorious by lifting up his thoughts. Okay, you got to lift up your thoughts. You got to get away from this whole thing of, this is why I said the law of compensation. You look for the good and you pull out the good. What that means is when you look at somebody else, you pull out the good. What we tend to do is we don't even know somebody, but we pull out what we don't like about them. And we grow an attachment we focus on what we don't like. And what James Allen is saying is you got to lift up your thoughts. You got to lift up your thoughts, only pull out good. Okay, when you look at other people, if all you can see is greed and dishonest and vicious behavior, that's what's going to be attracted to you. It's going to be reciprocal to you in your life. So you got to be aware of what you're doing. When you look at somebody else, you want to pull out the good. See, and when I start doing this, and I do this too, I'm human also, is once I catch myself doing this, I'm growing more and more aware of this, is I ask myself this question, is like, what do I like about him? What do I like about this situation? What's good in this situation? And my mind will actually search for the good, and I'll say something out loud. Well, this and this and this. Then I'll focus on that. And these are two examples he gave. That's why I highlighted it in green. Intellectual achievements are the result of thought consecrated to the search for knowledge and for the beautiful and the true in life and nature. Such achievements may be sometimes connected with vanity and ambition, but they are not the outcome of those characteristics. They are the natural outgrowth of long and arduous effort and of pure and unselfish thoughts. Spiritual achievements are the consummation of holy aspirations. He who lives constantly in the conception of noble and lofty thoughts, who dwells upon all that is pure and unselfish, will, as surely as the sun reaches its zenith and the moon is full, become wise and noble in character and rise into a position of influence and blessedness. Okay, listen to this. This is the law of the universe. Now, this is just basic, like attracts like. Like, if you focus on good, good has to come to you. This is universal law, okay? And then he's giving two separate examples in this. In intellectual achievements, he's saying, in intellectual achievements, you focus on the good, good has to come to you. This is what he's saying. In spiritual achievements, if it's the same thing. You focus on the good. Now, he's using different words. Like, for example, he's using are the consummation of holy aspirations. He who lives constantly in the conception of noble and lofty thoughts, pure and unselfish thoughts. Okay, what that means by law, universal law, well, pure and unselfish thoughts have to come to you. You have to reap what you sow. Okay, we've all heard that, the law of reaping what you sow. Now, what you sow, you're going to reap. If you sow good thoughts, no matter how you put it, no matter what term you use, if you sow good thoughts, positive thoughts, well, good and positive has to eventually come to you. But if you sow negative, eventually negative will come to you. Okay, let's keep this simple. Achievement of whatever kind is the crown of effort, the diadem of thought. By the aid of self-control, resolution, purity, righteousness, and well-directed thought, a man ascends. Okay, when your thought is well-directed into good, you ascend, you grow higher. By the aid of animality, indulgence, impurity, corruption, and confusion of thought, a man descends. Okay, remember, when he says this, remember, he's talking about the laws of the universe here. Remember, there's opposite sides to the law. Okay, now he's using is as your thoughts are in self-control, resolution, purity, righteousness, and well-directed thought, you ascend, you grow higher. You go higher in consciousness, and you attract at that level. But a law of the universe always has an opposite. The opposite here is, then he gives an example. The aid of animality, indulgence, impurity, corruption, and confusion, you descend, you go down. When you have impure thoughts, you have corruption thoughts, okay, you worry, doubt, and fear, okay, you descend, you go down in the frequency. And when you're down in this frequency, you only can manifest, when you talk about manifesting, you only can manifest at this level. If you're up here, you can only manifest at this level. Make sense? This is exactly how manifesting works. You manifest on a frequency that you're on. A man may rise high success in the world and even to lofty altitudes in the spiritual realm, and again descend into weakness and wretchedness by allowing arrogant, selfish, and corrupt thoughts to take possession of him. So listen to this. It's no matter how high you go in success. This is what he's saying. No matter how high you grow in success, you can have wealth. You got $15 million in the bank right now. But even though you're at that high level, you still have to be a master of your thoughts. You still have to be in control of your thoughts. Because if you stop controlling your thoughts, you're going to descend. You're going to go backwards. And this is what he's saying. A man may rise high level of success in the world and even lofty altitudes in the spiritual realm, and again descend and again go down into weakness and wretchedness by allowing his arrogant, selfish, and corrupt thoughts to take possession of him. So all through your life, you're going to have to be aware of your thoughts. Okay, and we see this, especially with celebrities. Ironically, you my celebrity example. We see celebrities, in mind's eye, and we don't personally know them, of course, but in mind's eye, that they got all the money in the world, they have the greatest career in the world, they could travel all over the world, they have this great life, but yet they get involved with drugs, alcohol, affairs, and so forth, and that brings them down. Because they're not in control of their thoughts. They've reached a high level of status, but they kind of got lazy with their thoughts, and their thoughts start going wild. Then they kind of go down a downward spiral. So this is what James Allen is talking about. Victories attained by the right thought can only be maintained by watchfulness. See, this is what I just said. I just said it in a different way, of course. Victories attained by the right thought can only be maintained by watchfulness. Okay, you're at a high level, you still gotta watch your thoughts. Many give way when success is assured and rapidly fall back into failure. Isn't this true? Even from my examples, I totally forgot this paragraph was here. It kind of matches my example I just gave on celebrities. Many give way when success is assured. So once you hit success, that's why you get lazy. You get lazy on your thoughts. You become arrogant. You think you don't have to watch your thoughts anymore. You think you don't have to be the master of your thoughts anymore. And rapidly fall back into failure because you're not watching your thoughts. All achievements, whether in the business, intellectual, or spiritual world, are the result of definitely directed thought, are governed by the same law, and are of the same method. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. Listen, what he means by this is the only difference. Listen, he says the only difference lies in the object of attainment. Meaning, like, we all want different things, okay? We all don't want the same things in life. We all don't want to manifest the same things. But it's governed by the same law. It's the same laws of the universe that we're using, okay? And it's the same method, okay? No matter all these manifesting techniques, okay, it really comes down to the same method of thought control. Okay, none of these manifesting techniques work. And again, I got a comment today on my YouTube channel is that none of these manifesting techniques work, and the reason why they don't work for you is because it's from the within. It's from the within out. So they're not working because all you're doing is manifesting your deep-rooted beliefs and manifesting your secret thoughts. Those are what's coming to you. So until you grow aware of this, none of these manifesting techniques you do work. And then on top of that, we covered this in this chapter. On top of that, what do people do? They don't take responsibility themselves. They blame the manifesting technique. They blame Neville Goddard. Well, the Neville Goddard technique don't work. This manifesting technique don't work. Well, Napoleon Hill's technique don't work. Well, Thomas Trower don't work. Or going to sleep at night thinking imagination don't work. It's not the technique that don't work. It's you. Okay, it's you that's not working. Okay, you got to find out why it's not working, and it's not working because you're manifesting what your deep-rooted beliefs are. That's why it's not working. That's why you're not getting exactly what you want. And I'll say this one more time, but these are the last couple paragraphs here. All achievements, whether in the business and intellectual world or spiritual world, are the result of definitely directed thought, are governed by the same law and on the same method. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. He would accomplish little, must sacrifice little. He would achieve much, most sacrifice much. He would attain highly, must sacrifice greatly. Okay, now remember, when he uses the word sacrifice, he's meaning you're sacrificing your level of thought. You're sacrificing bad thoughts, negative thoughts, over good thoughts. So you want good thoughts. Okay, I don't know if I said this backwards, with sacrifice. You're sacrificing good thoughts over negative thoughts. Okay, this is what he means by sacrificing. He doesn't mean by I'm sacrificing my weekend, I gotta get up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. like all these entrepreneurs preach nowadays. Okay, he's talking about sacrificing on the level of thought. I mean, thinking pure thoughts over impure thoughts, thinking positive over negative, thinking good thoughts over evil thoughts. This is what he's saying. This is what he means by sacrifice. He would accomplish little, must sacrifice little. If you want to accomplish little, you have to sacrifice little. He would achieve much, must sacrifice much. If you want your dream house, well, on that level of thought, the level of frequency that's on, you must sacrifice much. You must sacrifice that old self. Okay, that old self, meaning that the person you are up here, when you want that dream house, you want that multi-million-dollar house or whatever, how much it is, that dream house, is that the frequency you're on up here is totally different than where you are down here. You're a different person up here than you are down here. Up here, you're making different decisions. You have different friends, you have different core beliefs, different thoughts, how you carry yourself up here than you are down here. So what you have to do when you're down here, okay, when you're living in your 3D world, you have to be congruent with the person you're up here. You have to match. Okay, you have to start right now in your 3D world, start making decisions, how you would carry yourself, what you'd be thinking about, what would your conversations be, what type of hobbies would you have up here, and you got to bring it down to your 3D world. I will reread these couple paragraphs, then we'll wrap this up. All achievements, whether in business, intellectual, or spiritual world, are the result of definitely directed thought, are governed by the same law and on the same method. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. He would accomplish little, must sacrifice little. He would achieve much, must sacrifice much. He would attain highly, must sacrifice greatly. Other than that, my friends, we've covered a lot in this chapter. This is wrapping up chapter 5. And if you have any questions, comment below. I would love to know where you're at, what your thoughts are. And remember, I love you guys, and I'll see you in chapter 6.